Hello. In this video, I continue the Introduction to Coding Web Games using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript series with part 2. In the previous video, we set up our coding environment and tested it to make sure it worked. Next, we will add a canvas to our index.html file and get started drawing using our youtubeTutorial.js file. All the code written in this video is available for download at the link provided below. Let's begin. As you recall, we left our project in a state where we had a blue background, hello world was being served by the index.html file at this file path, and the it's me was being served by our JavaScript. We're going to replace this now with a canvas. So the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and erase our hello world and replace it with a new element. And that element has a tag name of canvas. So we're going to open and close canvas tags. And when opening and closing canvas tags, it's good practice to go into the opening canvas tag and assign a width and a height to your canvas. We're going to use a very easy to work with width of 500 pixels and height of 500 pixels. Oops. It's also a good idea to assign your canvas an ID so that you can go back and grab it later with your JavaScript. So we're going to go ahead and say ID is equal to canvas. You will notice that we're going to name everything that has to do with the canvas, canvas. So we'll save our HTML file, and now we will open up our youtubeTutorial.js file. And we're no longer going to grab the document.body.innerHTML and add to it it's me. So we can go ahead and comment this out. And I'd like to take this moment to show you that there's more than one way to comment out a line. There is the classic double slash, which will comment out one single line of code. The next line will be red. Alternatively, you can type in a forward slash and an asterisk to start to start the comment out, and then at the end of the comment, you have to type in the opposite, which is an asterisk forward slash, and that ends the comment. So everything between those two strings, the forward slash and the unforward slash, will be commented out. Pardon me, I had a brain fart there for a second. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to create a variable. So we type let canvas. The variable's name is canvas, and we're going to assign something to it. And just as earlier as we called on the document to do something, we're going to do that again. So we're typing in document, but this time we're not calling the body. What we're going to do now is we're going to tell the document to grab one of its elements, and to do that we're going to call the query selector. And the query selector will query the document, and the document will return the very first element that has the tag name that we assign, which we're going to say canvas. So it'll grab the first element with the canvas tag name and return it and put it into the canvas variable. But what if you have more than one canvas? Well, that's why it's best to give everything an ID, because instead of doing it this way, we alternatively, one sec, let me comment this out so that it is not read by the browser. We can use, again, we want to say let canvas equal document dot, and then this time we'll say get element by ID with a capital on element by ID. So capital E, capital B, capital I. And then parentheses, colon, semicolon, and then within quotation marks, we're calling on the ID of canvas. So now it'll grab the canvas that has the ID, or the element, that has the ID of canvas, and assign it to the variable canvas. So now what we have done is we've grabbed the canvas element and we've put it into a variable. So let's test to make sure we've done that correctly by you guessed it, changing the background color. And then when you change an element style with JavaScript, first you have to call the element, so canvas. Then you have to call style, so canvas.style. And what style do we want to change? The background color. So we type it as thus, background color, but with a capital C. And we say canvas.style.background color is equal to yellow. Make sure it's a string within quotation marks. So now if we save and then we go test this out by refreshing, you have to refresh the page. I forgot to mention that in the last video. So when you refresh the page, now the Hello Me has been replaced with a canvas with a yellow background, and it is 500 pixels by 500 pixels. It's stuck it in the corner because we haven't actually told it where to put the canvas in relation to the HTML, the rest of the body, but it defaults to the corner up there. So now we know that this is working. You cannot immediately draw to a canvas though. You have to do something called getting the context. You have to assign the context of the canvas to a different variable. So underneath canvas, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to say let context, not let canvas. We're going to say let context equal, and then we're going to do something with the canvas to get the context. I'm going to comment this out for now, just so we don't confuse ourselves. We're going to say let context equal, and then we're calling on the canvas to do something, not the canvas, the canvas. And we want the canvas to get context with a capital C. So canvas.getContext, parentheses, semicolon, and in parentheses we do quotations, and in the quotations we say 2D, because we want the 2D context, lowercase d. We can get a 3D context, and you can draw 3D pictures on an HTML canvas, but for this we're only doing 2D. So now we have a 2D context of our canvas. We can actually start drawing to the canvas. The first thing I'm going to do actually is I'm going to change the color. And to change a color when drawing on the canvas, you change the fill style, because this means we're going to fill your whatever you draw, whatever picture you draw, we're going to fill it with a color. And the color I'm going to assign as green because it's different than blue and yellow. So context.fillStyle, capital S on the style, equals green in quotation marks. And this will make sure that whatever I draw will be green. Now, we're going to learn how to draw a rectangle to our canvas. To do that, there's a very easy function within the canvas context called rect, R-E-C-T, but with a lowercase r. I've made a mistake here. Let me fix that. So context.rect, parentheses, semicolon. Now within this function that you are about to call, you have to pass 4 numbers. It is expecting an x-coordinate, a y-coordinate, a width, and a height. This is because when drawing on a canvas, everything is drawn in relation to the upper left corner. This is what we know, or is what will be known as 0, 0. Since our canvas is 500 pixels by 500 pixels, everything to the right of 0 will get higher and higher until you hit 500, and then that would be the right edge of the canvas. So the left side is the lower side when it comes to your x-coordinate. So this would be a lower x, and then as you get further to your right, your x-coordinate would get higher and higher and higher and higher. So that means this is 0, x-coordinate, and over here on the right is 500, x-coordinate. The top is same for the y-coordinate. The top goes from the top down. So the top is 0, this is 0 coordinate, and the bottom is 500. This means that the upper left-hand corner again is 0, 0, and this bottom right-hand corner would be 500, 500. So we have to give everything an x and a y coordinate in relation to the 0, 0 in the upper left, and that's how the canvas knows where to draw our picture. And then it also needs a width and a height. So just to make sure we remember that, I'm going to go ahead and type out physically. I'm going to say x1 and y1 just because there may be an x2, y2 later. So x1, y1, that's our x-coordinate and y-coordinate where we want it to start. And then we're going to need to tell it how wide we want our rectangle and how tall we want a rectangle. And for this tutorial, I'm just going to choose some arbitrary numbers. You know, we will we'll fill this in. Let me copy paste. I copy pasted so that I can have the reference, and then just replace this with 10, 10. So that means an x coordinate of 10, a y coordinate of 10, a width of 100 pixels, and a height of 50 pixels. Now, pardon me, we're not actually drawing anything yet. We have just told the canvas where we want our rectangle and how big we want our rectangle and what color we want our rectangle. So we've told it up here in the corner about 10 pixels off of the x coordinate and off of the y coordinate. So that'll be in the corner here. And, you know, 100 pixels wide and 50 pixels tall. That's exactly where we want our green rectangle. That's what we've told it. Now we have to tell it to fill in that color. Since we have assigned the fill style, we now need to say context.fill and tell it actually fill it in with the color now. So fill, and then it's a function, so we call it by putting the parentheses like this. And I've momentarily forgotten the semicolon. I will go back and put that in a second. But what I've also forgotten is that before you ever begin drawing a shape, you want to give it the context.begin path at the very beginning before you start drawing anything, with a capital P, begin path, just like I've had it there. And then at the end, after you're finished drawing your shapes, but before you fill them or before you stroke them, which is something we'll get into later, before you fill them, after you've drawn them but before you fill them is where you want to put your context.close path. So I'm going to remove this so we don't get confused. And now we've begun the path, we've assigned the color, we've told it where and how big, and we've told it to fill it, and there it is. I commented out the yellow color just to focus right now on the making sure that this printed, but let me go back and let me put that back there so that we don't immediately drop our canvas. But trust me, the canvas is still there, but now look, our rectangle is also there. So let me uncomment this out so that it will now change the color back to yellow. Refresh, and there's our yellow canvas with our green rectangle at 10, 10, and it is 100 by 50. So, congratulations on completing part 2 of this series. Take time to play around with, experiment with the code that we've just written, try some different colors or some different positions.